So welcome to Stephen Carter. Stephen is a Hyrox athlete. He is a loving partner. He's a very busy man, but he's very kindly dedicated some time to come and join us today. But he has made podium multiple times and has got a few flags under his belt as well. So we are bringing him on to talk everything about Hyrox training and his competition in 2 weeks' time. So how he's going to do in Chicago Worlds. Big man's going to pull in some big numbers, but it's going to be unreal. I'm excited to see you compete. Right, let's get into it.
Thanks, Jacob.
So tell me, what was life like before Hyrox?
Life before Hyrox. I felt like I was just going through the motions. Like, I lived a very happy life back in Ireland. Played football, took football very, very seriously. Worked a 9-to-5 job in tech in Dublin. Commuted to Dublin 2-3, well, it used to be 5 days a week, then COVID hit. And then it was cut down to about 3 days a week, 2 days a week. So yeah, kind of going through the motions with work. Didn't really have something that I was super, super passionate about. And then we decided, myself and my girlfriend decided to move here, and just for a change of scenery, change of lifestyle, get some new experience, and move in together. So we weren't living together back in Ireland. And part of that decision, I wanted to stop playing football because I wanted some change within my life. If I had kept playing football, I would have literally just done the same thing over here as I would have done in Ireland. So as we were moving over here in July of 2023, Hyrox was starting to take off. Okay, so previous to that, I'd kind of dabbled in my local CrossFit gym off season, away from football. And I got a flavor for what was called a move class, which is now Hyrox, which was Hyrox before Hyrox was a thing. And I just remember really, really vividly loving that class. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, aren't I?
Yeah, you're all good.
So remember loving that class. I used to look forward to that class on the weekend. It was every Tuesday, 5 p.m. I got excited to go to that class. I loved the simplicity of the moves. Everybody could do it. Barrier to entry was very, very low. And yeah, so I would have done Hyrox Dublin in 2023, but we moved here in July. So it just so happened with the race schedule that I couldn't actually race until the following June. So June of 2024 was my first race, but I had kind of been training full time in a gym setting for the first time in my life since I'd say September of 2023. So I had pretty much 9 months of trying to build up some strength, weightlifting for the first time in my life. Again, I dabbled from a CrossFit setting, but I was never really going there 5 times a week, 6 times a week. It was kind of just 1 or 2 classes per week to keep me ticking over. So yeah, life was really good back in Ireland, and I'd say it's even better here.
Then, so how did your first race go? You did pretty well, right?
Yeah, my first race was with a buddy of mine that I met over here. His name is Sean Hannon, and we entered open doubles. We were quite strategic in terms of knowing our numbers, knowing what our strategy was, split of stations, but we obviously never had race experience. So we were going in fresh newbies, confident in a rough plan, but not confident in how we would feel throughout each of the stations and what hurdles would be thrown at us. So we went into that race. We had sub-hour in our mind. That was the goal. We were fixated on sub-hour. We'd done some calculations which made sub-hour seem feasible. So it wasn't kind of plucking a number out of the sky, a nice round number. It was, we kind of done some maths, ran the numbers, and thought it was achievable. We crossed the finish line and ran it in 57 minutes and something. So we absolutely smashed our goal of the sub-hour mark. We were thinking like 59 something. So it went really, really well. I had no expectation. I had never even considered podium, winning the race, nothing. And we crossed the finish line, and about must have been a couple of hours later, someone was looking at the leaderboard, and we were looking at the age category. We knew about the age category ranking, and we were sitting in second place by 20 seconds. So we were beaten by 20 seconds by another duo on the day. I think that duo actually competed at Worlds the month before. So it was in May of 2024 Worlds in Nice, and then Melbourne was in June. So we were kind of thinking that's a very good start in the sport to be just pipped by someone that had just competed at World Championships. And just like crossing the finish line, like the camaraderie throughout the race, pushing and pulling, like it was unbelievable. Like it just, I can't describe the feeling that it gave me crossing that finish line, seeing the 57 something pop up on the screen, because you put so much work into these things, right? It's like you dedicate nearly your entire life to it. You live and die by your nutrition, your training regime. Like your training is like the fancy part, the flashy part. It's like, oh, look at me on a ski erg or row or whatever content you can produce from a training setting. That's the enjoyable part. That's the easy part. But it's everything that goes into fueling your body to perform well at training, and then fueling your body to recover from training. That's all the boring stuff, the every single day stuff. You have to love the mundaneness of just being in a routine and knowing that routine is going to push you further towards your goals. So yeah, I was hooked after that first race. I was hooked. The whole elation of standing on the podium, and I even said at one point, I looked to Sean and I was like, "Who do we think we are up on this podium?" But yeah,
holding up the flag.
Yeah.
And now you've got more than one. You've got a few.
I've got a few. Yeah, it's been going well ever since.
So what's your like? That's the thing with, you'll know if you're training for something long term, like marathon, like Hyrox, like Ironman, or anything like that. You put so much into the training and nutrition. What kept you motivated? What kept you disciplined?
I think it's so easy to stay motivated and disciplined when you have an event coming up. So for me, in my current situation, it's like World Championships is around the corner, right? There's so many eyeballs, so much potential for getting brand deals, partnerships. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on World Championships. It's going to be flashy in terms of promoting it on Instagram and putting up Instagram stories, posts. My family are flying in from Ireland, Arizona, and Spain to watch me compete. They have no interest in fitness. They only know about Hyrox through what I tell them. There's only so much you can convey about Hyrox over FaceTime without them just living it and seeing the magnitude of these events. Moments like that are so easy to be dialed in and get up out of bed at 5:30 in the morning when it's pitch dark, freezing cold. You don't want to get up. It's easy, right? So I think that the problem and challenge that people face is when they don't have that event. So they go to World Championships and then there's no other event locked in. And it's like you can keep booking events and keep chasing it, but like you're literally chasing that high to then inevitably crash, and then booking another event is going to bring you slightly back up. So I think it's so important to just stand back and understand why do you get a high from this? Why do you do what you do? Why do you love the training? Why do you love the boring stuff that comes with it? Why do you dedicate your life to it when you don't get paid for it? And ultimately, when I've sat down and answered those questions myself, it's been very much about, it makes me fundamentally a better person. It makes me a better son, better boyfriend, better partner, better friend. Like I just have so much more energy to give to people versus being in a bad routine, going out drinking on the weekend. Like I am a shell of myself on a Sunday, as is everybody, but I think you get to a point where if you drink every weekend, you build up a tolerance so that you can kind of brush off how you feel the next day and then go out and put that mask on. Whereas I just can't do that. And like I haven't had a drink since December. So like I've gone all in on this. And like, I'm just a nicer person to be around. I'm so much more positive. My outlook on everything is positive, even when negative things present themselves as they do in life. I'm able to quickly spin that into a positive turnaround, into a positive look for the positives in a situation. Like, that's all stemming from eating well, living a healthy lifestyle, and my training. So it's like that's what drives me outside of these big flashy events and the races and the Instagram clout, and that's all kind of crap to me. It's part of the game where you try and grow your Instagram following, because then you get partnerships. I'm very grateful for the partnerships that I've gotten along the way, but that's not the part of this what I love.
It's not part of why you do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Talking of why you do it, do you have inspiration in the Hyrox world? Do you have anyone you look up to?
I look up to everybody that is at the top of their game, because I know from just doing this for the past nearly 2 years, I know what it takes to just dedicate every single part of your life. And the people at the top of this sport have been just doing that for a far longer period of time than I've been doing it. And they probably make even more sacrifices than I do. I try and balance a life with it as well. And you need to carve out time for relationships, friendships, and sometimes I do partake in things that I don't necessarily want to do for the sake of building a friendship or whatever that may be. So I appreciate their dedicate to their craft and just what it takes to get there. So I look up to them all. Everybody that is in that elite 15, like, I mean, that would be the absolute dream for me to get there one day. Like, so Sean Noble is representing Ireland on a huge platform, seeing his following increase massively over the past few months and seeing his growth in the sport, and being very, very, very unfortunate to be kicked out of the elite 15 because he qualified right on the 100th wall ball fiasco. And he really, really gives me motivation, because it's like, well, people can be there to represent the tricolour as well and represent our flag and our home country. So he gives me inspiration as well. And but everybody at the top of their sport, even if they're not at the top of their sport, if they live their life in a dedicated way where they make good choices with food, they make good choices with training, they're in a good routine, that I respect that, because I know that the easy thing is to live an unhealthy life. That's their easy decisions to make, to get a takeaway instead of cooking your dinner, you know? So yeah, I gain inspiration from most people.
I'm just going to swap back. So what's your weekly training structure like? How are you training with your runs? How are you training with your lifts? What does that look like?
My weekly training structure is quite hectic, I would say. So Monday because the evenings have gotten darker, I would usually train in the gym in the mornings and then do my runs in the evening. Since the evenings have gotten darker, I've switched that. I do my running in the morning, mostly gyms in the evening. So weekly split is run in the morning, Monday morning. So do a long run, 13 to 17 kilometers. Then Monday night, I strength train. Tuesday morning, I go to a Hyrox strength class. So that's given me kind of sled practice. It's given me some leg dominant movements. So my legs kind of get quite heavy coming into Wednesday, because you'd be hitting some form of legs in your strength class on Monday evening as well. Tuesday night, I hit the track. I do a threshold session, meet Elliot there. Wednesday, I run in the morning, and then depending on how my body is feeling from the past couple of days, I will strength train on the Wednesday evening, depending on what lifts are in the class. If it's mostly upper body, I'll do it. If it's mostly lower body, I'll probably sit it out and rest and recover. Thursday morning is an individual conditioning session, so long stints, 4-minute blocks on ergs. So I try and curtail that to ski and row. Depending on how the class is structured, how many people are there, I might have to jump on a bike the odd time, which we did this morning. Friday or Thursday night will be another threshold session. I'll again meet Elliot and we'll drill we have the same threshold pace, so we'll drill running together. I'll lead a set, he'll lead the next set, and it'll be akin to that in the race. So it's kind of prepping us for sticking with that person in front. Friday morning, I will get up and run. Friday evening, I will strength train. Saturday morning, I'll do a Hyrox specific conditioning session. It's the only real Hyrox specific session I do with running stations. And then Sunday, I'll typically rest. So I'll check in with myself on the Saturday. I'll see how many kilometers I've done for the week. I'll give myself a goal of 70 Ks per week. I'll see where I'm at. I'll usually have to get one long run in over the weekend based on what rest I've taken during the week. So it's quite hectic. It's probably maybe 12 sessions in a week. 2 sessions per day, pretty much every day. Try and take a rest day when I can. It's not always possible if I'm trying to chase mileage for the week.
That makes sense. How, do you recover from everything from eating to supplements to your ice bath or your sauna, or are you just plain old sleep?
I think recovery, so much goes into it, right? It's everything you've mentioned. There's ice bath, sauna, cold hot therapy. I try and do that. I'm probably getting to that maybe only once a month at the moment. Massages. I have quite good health insurance with work, so it covers the cost of 90% of my massages, which is good. I try and get them in bi-weekly. So every fortnight I'll try and get a massage. Probably every month is more realistic. And that'll be a full body hour-long massage. Outside of that, they're the kind of fancy recovery techniques. Outside of that, I'm very dialed in nutrition. So fueling my sessions pre-session to get the most out of the session, and then fueling my body to give the best chance to recover. So into that goes a lot of protein, a lot of carbohydrates. Supplements, I take creatine is one of the big ones for my recovery. Make sure I'm hitting my protein goal for the day through food. I actually don't drink any protein powders or shakes. I get all
creatine in gummies though, right?
The odd time I'd probably take a second dose of creatine through gummies, but I would take creatine post session in powder form. Switch Nutrition actually just released a premium creatine tub, and honestly, bias aside, it's the best quality powder that I've had.
Wow.
So it just mixes super well. You don't get that chalky taste. I've never had any grit or clumps or anything. I'll give you some to take home, which actually just a little sample or something. Yeah. But yeah, it's really good. Take that. Electrolytes, huge. I'll have 2 scoops of another Switch product. They have a hydrate product, which is electrolytes and carbohydrates. So I usually take 2 scoops of that in a day. Sleep is a big one. So sleep has changed drastically for me since actually getting a Whoop. So I had this in Ireland, tried to prioritize my sleep since getting this. And then I've further focused on sleep, getting earlier nights, getting up earlier since I'm moving here. So I would have usually, back in Ireland, I would have gotten up for work. So I would have got out of bed at probably 8 a.m., 8:30, into the shower, start work for 9. Over here, I'm hitting a session every single morning before work. So means try and get to bed at about 9 o'clock, 9:30. Sleep is hugely, there's so much overlap between your sleep and quality of sleep, not just your length. So how much deep sleep you're getting, how much REM sleep you're getting, and being able to track that with a Whoop is game changing in terms of analyzing where I can do better. I actually use the opportunity to fill in the journal as well to try and see what I can be doing different to impact my sleep. What else? I would say I'm quite good at listening to my body and resting when I need to. And I think you need to be careful about that as well, because sometimes laziness crops in and you just can't be bothered with doing a session. So I'm good with being honest with myself. Is it that I don't want to do the session, or is it that I need to not do the session and listen to my body and give it a break? So I'm quite good at knowing that and being honest with myself to get something done. If I don't want to get it done, or else listen to my body and use that time to recover. Stretching as well, mobility, try and get some of that done in the evening times as well.
How are you feeling about Chicago? It's how many weeks out is it? 2.5? Is it two this Sunday?
No, this Friday, tomorrow.
Wow, two tomorrow.
So tomorrow, 2 weeks I hit solo, and then Sunday 2 weeks I hit doubles with Elliot. But yeah, every time I even think about Chicago, I just get like a excited feeling in my belly. It's mostly for my family to just witness what I do and what sacrifices I make in my life, because they would see it as me not having any crack because I don't go drinking or whatever. I feel like they just don't fully understand the commitment required to kind of be at that level and be at a world championship level. I can't wait to walk behind my flag, my country's flag. It would be the first time I've ever represented my country doing anything. I think even to be able to say that and vocalize that, I think it's just unbelievable. I can't wait to just be amongst everyone who has like a similar goal, and I know everybody there is making such sacrifices with the way they live their lives from a nutrition standpoint, training standpoint, how many hours they put into this in a week to get to where they are. I think that's all so motivating to me. And I think going and being in that environment, meeting people, networking, connecting with other people, like-minded people, and then just bringing that back. If I had a crystal ball, I would say that will light some fire under me to try and go to it next year again, but actually have it in my mind I want to compete now and get onto that podium and represent my country on the podium. This feels like a bit of experience gaining for me because I'm so new to the sport. I know the times that it takes to get onto that podium and to win these races. I'm not there yet. So I'll go and give it my very best. I'm very dedicated to putting my best performance in and getting the best time I can possibly get. But my time is going to be for me, and that's going to be a marker for how I need to improve and where I need to improve going forward for the next season. So I'm looking forward to the entire experience.
With the changes to the championship qualification being pro only as opposed to open, how do you think that's going to affect the way that Hyrox shifts?
That's a good question. So I think you will see an increased level of competition in the pro category, which I think is needed. Myself personally, I wanted to hit that sub 60 at open before going to pro. That was like a personal accomplishment that I wanted to achieve. So from now on, I will only compete in pro unless it's for some fun. So I will do open doubles in Sydney with one of the members of unit who's really, really quick, really fit. So we'll give open doubles a crack. I wanted to do pro solo, pro doubles are on similar times, so it would have been impossible to do both. So we're going to hit open doubles, but my primary focus that weekend is pro solo to try and qualify. And then before that, I'm doing men's relay with Elliot for his fundraiser. In terms of what it means, I think it's good for the sport because it pushes people into pro that actually want to go to world championships and compete at world championships. So it's less so about, like, open, you can get away with being fast and running, right? So a lot more than you can with pro. So it's pushing the best athletes that are competing at Hyrox to world championships. Let's say, for argument's sake, this time around, in Brisbane, for example, I qualified by coming first in my age category, ended up coming first overall out of about 1,300 men that competed. But me qualifying and there being one spot for me to qualify for world championships, I still don't think that I am fitter than a person that maybe came second in pro in our age category. You could be, but on average, I don't think that that's the case. I think more spots to pro and no spots to open is a good move.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely think it'll increase like the competition level as well, and people are going to want to have to really start training.
Yep.
And I think it'll hopefully still enable the open to be somewhat competitive for that like level. Because that's the only thing. You now have incredible athletes coming in, doing an open, being casual and running like, you know, sub hours like easy. And it's just for someone who only wants to train for an open, it's nice to kind of have that level, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
For someone like getting into Hyrox, like your advice to others, how much do you reckon, or how much do you think you need to train to like, if you were going to get into Hyrox, what would you advise someone who's looking to maybe do their first competition?
For someone that wants to get into Hyrox, that's starting from scratch, I think the most important thing is to have an ability to run and to work for an extended period of time. So if you're wanting to get in, the beauty of the sport is that the barrier to entry is actually very, very low. So anybody, you could do it in the morning. If you've no fitness level, you could still do it in the morning. It might take you longer than someone that has an increased fitness ability over you, but you'll still be able to do it. The skill level of completing a race is quite low. So pretty much anybody can do it. Any races that you go to, there's always 75, 80-year-olds going around, walking at some points, jogging, doing the movements. So like it truly is a sport for everybody, which is something that I absolutely love about it. And the reason why it's taken off, and it's now a global phenomenon, the growth rate of the sport is like nothing I've ever seen before. So my recommendation, but to make it more enjoyable and to get into the sport and to get to a reasonable level of fitness, is to join a community-based gym. I think that first step means that you're going to meet people that are on similar journeys, completely different walks of life, different fitness abilities, and getting over that hurdle of being intimidated to walk into that gym. What lies on the other side of that hurdle is potentially life-changing for you. So the people that you will meet in a community-based gym are going to push you, drive you, hold you accountable, while you hold them accountable and drive and motivate them as well. So everybody is in it together, and you end up training as a collective bunch and share similar interests in terms of fitness goals and things you would like to do and accomplish, like completing a Hyrox race. The other benefit with a community-based gym is that you could potentially find a doubles partner or a relay team to compete together. So Hyrox isn't just a solo competition where you have to do the race by yourself. You can do it with you can do 2 males, 2 females, a male, female, or you could do 2 females, 2 males, 2 or 4 females or 4 males. So you have quite a bit of choice in terms of who you want to do it with or what kind of category you want to compete at. But yeah, community-based gym, work up towards training at a level you can sustain for about 60 minutes. If you can work for an hour, then you're 3/4 of the way there to doing a good time at Hyrox.
Do you see any like anyone new in the sport or a lot of new people who've started Hyrox making like a lot of the same mistakes? Like, do you see anything that's kind of in particular like, wish you could tell everyone stop doing this, or like, what'd that be?
Yeah, for sure. The biggest mistake that I see anybody competing at Hyrox is going out of the traps too quickly. So sprinting that first run, sprinting the ski erg for a kilometer, and then just blowing up, heart rate being through the roof, and having to stop and recover in the rock zone, having to walk, having to jog at a really slow pace. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of building your way into the race. And I actually did a reel on my Instagram, which gained quite a few views. And I actually backed up this with data points from the RoxFit app to showcase that I think I was about 150th after the ski. And then I just kept climbing my way up to first place after the wall balls. So I think that was a good visual representation of the benefits of starting slow and growing into the race rather than going out hot, getting caught up in all of the adrenaline and everybody sprinting, because everybody does it and it's easy to get caught up in it. It's easy to go there with confidence if you train quite a bit and thinking that you may be the fittest person at the start line. Just running your own race, forgetting about everybody else and just sticking to the numbers that you know you can produce. I think that's the biggest mistake that everybody makes. I think the second biggest mistake is neglecting strength training and thinking that it's purely a running race. Running is 50% of the race in a solo, even more of that percentage in a doubles. But especially at a pro level, even at an open level, the sleds and the strength exercises are just going to eat your muscles alive if you don't have some base level of strength. So really focusing on your compound lifts, back squat, front squat, deadlift, and making sure that you're doing regular accessory movements throughout the week, I think is so important.
Is there anything you wish you knew before your first race?
A couple of things I wish I knew before my first race. The first being the rope for the sled pull. That was probably the most shocking thing about the race. I hadn't trained with that exact rope, so I didn't know how it was going to feel. There was a lot of slack within that rope, so I remember just going down and pulling and the sled not moving. And my initial thought was, oh my God, I'm not going to finish this race. So that was a big learning in terms of learning how to take the slack out of the rope. The other thing is easy running. So learning how to easy run, not getting caught up on this Instagram facade and the Strava facade of calling your zone 2 runs and easy runs at 4:15 pace or ridiculous times and paces and speeds, and just being comfortable with running 5:50, 6 minutes per K for my easy runs, because I know the objective of that easy running is to build up my ankles, knees, joints, to be comfortable with running over a longer period of time, as well as the aerobic building that you're doing of your capacity. So the bigger aerobic base that you can build through the likes of easy running, zone 1, zone 2 work, the more you're going to delay that lactic threshold onset, the more you're going to push your lactate threshold as well. So it's like a graph, right? I went and got my lactate threshold test done and it produced a graph, and I had quite a big base of aerobic capacity. And then when it got into kind of upper end of zone 3, zone 4, I had quite a sharp spike of lactic buildup. So the recommendation from the sports scientist to me personally was to train more at my upper end, my zone 4, zone 5, because I was doing obviously a lot of easy running miles, and easy work in the gym and zone 2 bike, etc. So my priority focus then became to train at the upper ends of my capacity. But for the majority and for the regular athletes, the focus should be to build that base as big as possible, as wide as possible, and elongate that graph as long as possible.
Unreal. Makes sense. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Perfect.
Thanks for having me, Jacob.
Appreciate it.